Welcome. I'm Jessica Lonnie Rich, host of Inspire You and Me. It's an inspirational show where we talk to people who are making a difference. On this week's show, we have the founders of Ukulele Festival Hawaii, Roy and Kathy Sakuma. And be sure to stay tuned for the Animal Lovers Clip of the Week. We'll have all that and more, and we'll be back right after this.
5914 777. Who's got the best deals in Vegas around? Who's got the best job? Call 5914 today. Vacations Hawaii. Vacations Hawaii. Vacations Hawaii. Good luck, we go play. 5914 today. Good luck, we go play.
We are very excited to have as our special guests on the show. They are the founders of Ukulele Festival Hawaii. Please welcome Roy and Kathy Sakuma. Welcome, Roy and Kathy.
Thanks, Jessica.
Thank you very much. Thank
so
you.
So good to be here.
Yeah, and it's really good to see both of you again. You do such great work. What is Ukulele Festival Hawaii?
It's an organization, and our mission is to spread laughter, love, and hope to children and adults of Hawaii and the world. And we're doing that mainly through our Ukulele Festival Hawaii event that we have every July. And this year we just celebrated our 50th. Roy started it in 1971, and the first event I went to when I first met him, it was in 1973.
Roy, how did you get interested in the ukulele?
When I was 16, I believe, 16 years old, I heard a song on the radio called Sushi by Ota-san. And never learning to play the ukulele because I was hopeless in music, I honestly fell in love with that song. And I just yearned to hear it on the radio every day. And one of these days, my friend said, "Hey, Ota-san's giving lessons." And I went to see him and asked him, could he teach me? And I wanted to learn the ukulele so badly now because I wanted to play that song. And he started teaching me, and lo and behold, I fell in love learning to play the ukulele.
Wow. And there is a background story about how you had the location of Kapiolani Park for your Ukulele Festival Hawaii. Can you share that with us?
Well, actually, because I had no educational background, because I was a little kolohe kid and I got kicked out of high school, the only job that I could get full-time was working for the city as a groundskeeper. And it was during those lunch breaks when I sat at the bandstand looking at the stage, I muttered one day, I said, my dream is to put on an ukulele festival, because I was already teaching a few students ukulele. And somebody overheard me mumbling and said, "Dreams come true." Those words inspired me to go to City Hall, inquire, how do I put on an event at a bandstand? And they led me to a gentleman named Maroni Maideris, who became our very dear friends. And through his help and guidance, I was able to put on the first annual Ukulele Festival, not realizing 50 years later, we're still doing it. Yes.
Roy, I know in life there are some adversities that you had to overcome. Can you share that with us?
I realized years later that what bottled me up so much was I was born with a small right ear, which, kids, they kind of tease you and make fun of you. And I used to go home crying to my mother. I was only in kindergarten. And because I didn't realize at that time my mother was mentally ill, she would point outdoors and say, "They made you like this." And that really confused me. Like, how could they make this? And so I developed a paranoia. And I every day in school, I always felt people looking at me, and I felt ugly. So the one thing that helped me was to cut out of school and not be around any children. So from kindergarten, I started cutting out and having to latch on to something to help me. I started smoking at such a young age. That didn't help. And I just struggled throughout those early years. But after understanding and getting through those struggles, and when I found the healing, now I could go into schools and talk to children, explain the struggles, but then also share how I got through those struggles. That gave all these kids hope. And that's where hundreds in the thousands of letters started to come to me. And it was so enjoyable reading what they shared, how the talk had helped them.
Roy, you go into the schools to give hope to students. Can you share with us one of those stories?
Well, I remember going to this one school of 6th and 7th graders where many of them came from low-income housing. And, and honestly, many of these kids cry. During the talk I'm sharing, they're in tears. They're just breaking down in tears. And I hugged everybody. And then the teacher also wrote me a letter that she was in tears too, because there's something I did that brought back memories when she was a child. Well, one of those students in one of those letters said that I was planning to commit suicide this weekend, but your talk gave me hope that I can make it. Thank you, and then she drew and she drew a heart. She drew 3 of them. I love you, I love you, I love you. And that really inspired me. It was early on in my talks that what I was sharing was actually truly helping people. And that teacher that wrote to me, she said when she was a little girl, she sang that song, a song that I sing every time I talk to children or with anyone.
What is your message of hope?
My message is basically that a lot of the struggles that we have, that we feel that we're not good enough, was actually probably things, memories of hurt that we exhibited in our life that we kind of drew into us. And it became, we started to identify it as part of who we are. But it's not true. And that there's a later story that I hope I can share, is how I was able to share with these kids how to release that. Because it wasn't the truth. But that's how you feel. It's like me. I felt ugly because of my ear. But it wasn't that I was ugly. It's just that when I hear kids tease me, you're ugly, you start to feel you are ugly, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, and you are the right person to share that message to students because you walk the walk and talk the talk, and you went on to create Ukulele Festival Hawaii. So let's transition now into that. Kathy, how did you and Roy meet?
It was actually a blind date with one of the girls that I was working with, and that's how we met. It was just nothing planned. It was just one of those things we met.
Yes.
We just had lunch one day.
You just had lunch one day, and how many years ago was that?
1973.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
1973. And then 3 years later, we got married.
You know, a funny story about when we met.
Yeah.
When I finally had the courage to ask her out, I called her up one night and said, would you like to go out to the Harlem Globetrotters Friday night, Harlem Globetrotters? She said, oh, I have a date. I'm sorry.
I said, I'm busy.
So then I said, would you like to go out Saturday night? She says, oh, no, I'm busy. I'm sorry. I have plans already. You would think any person would now hang up the phone. But I figured, okay, she's probably telling me the truth. So I said, would you like to go out Sunday night to the Harlem Globetrotters? And she said, yes. Thank goodness for the Globetrotters.
Well, thank goodness for that third try.
Yeah. I had gone through so much adversity in my life. Her rejecting me twice wasn't enough to you know, I could handle it because I want you so much already. So why not ask another day, you know?
Now, you said years later you started Ukulele Festival Hawaii, and you met some celebrities along the way. James Ingram, share with us that story.
Well, one day, I used to play basketball every Sunday at University of Hawaii, and I was warming up on the track field at Cook Field, and I saw these 2 gentlemen lying on the ground, perspiring. I said hi. As I walked around again, they were still there. And I started talking to them, and I said, you're football players. And they laughed. They said, oh, we're too old. And it turns out they were coming back from a Far East tour. And I asked them, what do you do there? And James said, oh, I play a little keyboard. See, he didn't say who he was. But then he reached out his hand and he says, hi, I'm James Ingram. And I said, hi, I'm Roy Sakuma. I had no idea who he was. I didn't, but I invited them to dinner the next night because we had such a fun conversation. Well, I go home that afternoon. I'm watching the Pro Bowl on TV at Aloha Stadium. And at halftime, they say, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. James Ingram. And I go, Kathy, that's who I met. You know, and then she tells me all the songs that he sings. And we went out the next night, and we just clicked. By the end of that evening, he had asked me so many questions, what do I do? And he was so fascinated that, you know, we teach children ukulele. He actually told me, he says, I will come next year, and I will sing at your festival. blew us away. And
Well, he has 6 children of his
Yeah.
own.
Oh, he does. Wow.
And he said, you don't have to pay me. Wow.
That is
And
amazing.
it began a journey of friendship between Kathy and I, and he and his wife.
Over the years, you've had so many celebrities involved in Ukulele Festival Hawaii, including Jake Shimabukuro and even the late Willie Kay.
Well, Jake was actually our student. He was our student since he was 10 years old. And until he graduated from high school, he stayed with us and continued to learn to play the ukulele. And look at him today. He has become a great ambassador for the ukulele throughout the world. And having people like Jay and having all these great entertainers, Jack Johnson and, C&K and all the great Kelly, Rachel, there's a very interesting story about all these great entertainers. When we approached them to perform, you want to share that story or shall I share it,
Well, we've been very blessed. And so some of them don't even play the ukulele. But when they find out that the whole event is centered around the children and families, they say, I'm in. And Roy's always, kind of like apologetically saying, I'm sorry, but we're only going to ask you to do 2 songs. But they're fine. And they said they love it. And when they come, they love the atmosphere of the families and the children playing together. And it's a fun event where everybody just gets together and in honor of the ukulele, but it brings everybody together on all different playing levels on the same stage.
And another celebrity, of course, is the late Willie Kay, who was involved.
Oh
And I
my
thought
gosh.
about you when he passed. And he was involved in your ukulele festival quite a bit as
For
well.
quite a bit. And he would fly in and we would hang out together. We would go to the different TV stations for interview, radio station. We would talk stories. And he would share with me that it was when he was touring around the world, he started seeing people with ukuleles, so he would take out his ukulele and play a song. Not realize, he told me, Roy, it's amazing now. Half my show, if sometimes even more, I'm playing my ukulele because people love it, and he really credits the Ukulele Festival, that foundation from 1971, is almost like the birthplace of how this ukulele has just spread all over the world now.
Unique, majestic, inspiring. Hawaii's hidden gem on the windward side. Just a short scenic drive will take you to one of the most extraordinary locations in the world. We specialize in conferences, meetings, retreats, business functions, social events, and off-premise catering. Delectable cuisine, stunning panoramic views, and excellence in first-class service. Let Ko'olau Ballrooms and Conference Center make your event a memorable experience.
Now, we don't have a lot of time to talk about the whole 50 years, but you've generated so much interest. Can you take us through briefly through the journey of the 50 years?
It started off really small. It was a 2-hour event. I mean, when we gathered, the parents would come and they would decorate the stage.
Yes.
It was like they took over. It wasn't like a planned event. It was like we just showed up and parents said, well, we'll do this and that. Then we had a performance, and then after that, everybody would picnic in the park. They would bring their own food. In those days, there weren't food booths. There was a small little concession. But over the years, it just gradually grew, and we never planned or imagined it would get to this point. It wasn't like we planned it. It just kind of, it's like a child growing up when they're a baby and you realize you're 5 years old and you think, wait, you were just a baby. What? And then, that's how it was. You don't see it, you don't realize it until 50th came and we go, wow.
And another thing, it's free.
It's free. It was my dream when we started it to keep it free. And it was about 10, 15 years into the festival when it was very popular. We were approached to put it in the shelf and we could make money. And we couldn't do it because we wanted to keep it free. And to see now 50 years later that it's still free, we're so thankful because the whole purpose was to bring families together. And Kathy, who has such a compassion for children, throughout the years thought of all these things to make it more fun. when you look at the festival, you see the ukulele lesson booth where people can learn to play the ukulele. You see a slide for children, a bouncer for children. You see the keiki coloring contest for children, and you see Lego booth for children. And then you see a second stage where there's food booths. There's music for entertainers to participate on the second stage. Those were all her ideas that she would approach me over the years. Roy, let's do this, let's do this. Let's make it more enjoyable for families. So a lot of the growth of the festival is attributed to her love for children, love for families.
Are there any particular Ukulele Festival Hawaii events that sort of stick out in your mind?
I think there's just so many stories of happy moments. Like for the children, there could be a child who's been taking lessons for 5-7 years, never played in the festival, even an adult say, no, I don't want to play on it. And we don't, it's an open invitation. Anybody can participate. Some say, for whatever reason, they don't want to do it, but then one year they'll come up and they say, I'm going to do it. And to see the expression of them performing and that just kind of stays with you forever, because we've been patient and hoping that they would, and then they do, and then they love it.
They do.
Or we see, and all the times we've had guest performers from around the world, they would email us or call us or write us, and we would say, yeah, sure, come on down and join us. We never had an audition. We never auditioned anybody.
No.
And yet, when they performed, I would just watch them on stage, and I would just be stuck in my place because there was so much heart, and they just loved playing. And I thought, wow, that's amazing.
What about challenges over the last 50 years?
Well, there's a story one year where there was a hurricane coming, and it was Friday already, and we were at the mayor's office, and everybody was canceling their events that weekend. KHON actually called me and said, okay, you're at the mayor's office, we're coming down, we want to talk to you. So they came down and they interviewed me and they said, are you going to have your event on Sunday? And we said, yes, we're not canceling. And they said, you're not going to cancel? I said, no, because there are so many entertainers from around the world, amateurs that want to perform. It's their whole big event of the year. So I felt we could wait to the last minute. Well, what happened is that year the hurricane hit, I believe that big Mauna Kea or that big mountain, and it stopped in its track. And so we were able to have our ukulele festival that year. And it was, we just thank you, we thank the Lord. But, it's things like that. It's pins and needles. But
it was a beautiful day.
It was a beautiful day.
It was.
It was a beautiful day.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so things like this, it's memories that we're so very, very thankful, because I believe now that I understand that I was given this love for the ukulele, not for myself, not to perform on stage and to say, look how good I am, but I fell in love with teaching, which is what I believe is the greatest joy in my life. Is with Kathy we can share and we can teach everyone the joy of the ukulele. I mean, that to me is so satisfying.
And that, would you say, is your legacy? If someone asked you, how do you want to be remembered, or what is your legacy, how would you answer that?
I guess portion of it would be about the ukulele, but what is so important is that I've been able to use that foundation to help so many children and people throughout Hawaii and the world through a sharing of experiences that I've gone through that have helped them get through their struggles in life.
A lot of people don't know this about you, but you're also both humanitarians. For example, several years ago, you went to Fukushima, Japan, when there was a tsunami. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, I remember that one Sunday morning, Kathy and I turned to each other and we said, we need to go to Fukushima. We said it simultaneously to one another, and that was a calling for us to go. And we ordered 200 ukuleles. We wanted to teach them how to play. And the manufacturer called me up and said, what are you doing 200 ukuleles? And when I shared with him what we're going to do, he gave it to us. He shipped them to Japan, Fukushima. And we met someone there that took us to different shelters. And these are people and children, they lost their family, they lost their homes. There was not much left. And we went there, we put the ukuleles in their hands, we taught them. And at the end of each session there, Kathy and I would share that we come all the way from Hawaii with a love in our hearts that you are not forgotten. There are so many people in Hawaii that care for you, and it would bring tears and they would cry. The translator would explain what we're trying to share. And, it touched our hearts so much. As the years went by, Kathy now was helping her niece, take care of family things. But I've been going every year, back to that same place to talk to these people, to play a little ukulele. And one shelter formed their own ukulele club, and they would play for play. They would.
Yeah, it's an inspiring story because we were inspired by other people's missions to Japan and helping. And we thought we can help because we can give ukuleles, and even if you can't play it, they can learn a simple 2-chord or 3-chord song. And it just all fell in where the ukulele makers ended up donating the ukuleles, shipping it to Japan. We wanted to get candy. I contacted a candy company, then they said, we want to help. Everybody we contacted all started to pitch in, and we didn't know anybody in Japan. Then there was someone in Japan who met us. It just fell into place. And one of the shelters, later on after we left, there was one man who was in despair, and he was drinking and everything. He was in the shelter, but he is the one who ended up starting an ukulele club after we left, and he became the teacher.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, what a story.
Great, yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing.
The name of our show is Inspire You and Me. Roy and Kathy Sakuma, what inspires you?
I love teaching the ukulele. I love sharing the knowledge that I have, and not just the knowledge, but my humor with all my students. But it also inspires me that I can go into schools and I can go into mental health conferences and help people understand that many of the struggles that we go through, that we can actually get through them.
I think over the decades of working, teaching children ukulele, we've been able to just really be in touch with families. Families and children inspire me. They give so much of themselves to provide for their children. And so it makes Roy and I feel even more that we want to give back to these families and these children. And then with our staff, to teach them that, they're coming to learn to play the ukulele, but it really isn't about the ukulele. That is like the venue. But at the end of the day, if you just show everybody that you care, and that's what matters, then so that's what inspires us moving forward, always with everyone.
Thank you. Well, we've been talking about playing the ukulele, so let's pick up your ukulele. And Roy, you wrote a song, I Am What I Am. Share with us about that.
That song came to me in 1970, and it really helped me during a time where I was struggling. And as I sang those words, it just came to me, and I realized those words meant a lot, that it could help me. I am what I am. I'll be what I'll be. Look, can't you see that it's me, all of me? And it really made me feel like I'm okay. And as I share this message to all the children, they realize that we're all special. And yet a lot of times we don't think we are. And that's where we start to struggle, because we focus on the things that we're not good about, but really, as when we share these things that we think we're struggling with, these weaknesses we feel we have can actually be our strengths. And so this is what came out of my mouth, and it was called I Am What I Am. I'm going to sing that chorus. Pardon my singing. I am what I am. I'll be what I'll be. Look, can't you see that it's me, all of me? I am what I am. I'll be what I'll be. Look, can't you see that it's me after you?
Bravo! Roy and Kathy, you not only brought joy to the world in your Ukulele Festival Hawaii for the past 50 years and more, and internationally to Japan, but you brought joy to our studio today. On behalf of Inspire You and Me, I want to thank you both for being our guests today. You are both truly inspirational. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jessica.
Thank you, Jessica. Thank you.
When you feel like Vegas, there's just one place to stay. Grab a drink at the Holo Holo Bar. There's just one place to play. We got a fresh, hot look, a new sports book. We got those local meals, just like Auntie cooks. Aloha spoken here. Bet you find it at the Cow.
Look now at thecow.com.
We hope that you've enjoyed our show this week. I'm going to leave you with a rich thought for the day from Zig Ziglar, who said, "Sometimes adversity is what you need to face in order to become more successful." Think about it. Until we meet again, I'm Jessica Lonnie Rich. Take care.
Oh, my, it's a beautiful world. I like surfing Waikiki. I like to paddle out beyond the white breakers, where a man can still be free, or a woman if you are one. Yes, I do like surfing Waikiki. My, it's a beautiful world. My, it's a beautiful world. Oh, my, it's a beautiful world. My, it's a beautiful world.
The hardest thing in life is letting go of a loved one. Finding the right provider can be essential in your time of need. Celebrate your loved one with Ballard Family Mortuaries. We offer a full range of cremation and burial services on Oahu, Maui, Hilo, and Kona, with professional guidance and specialized attention you can trust at the most affordable cost. Call us today for a free consultation on funeral service options available to you and your family. Ballard Family Mortuary Group, serving Hawaii since 1997.